The type of stitch that we'll be going over is called the Ndebele Herringbone Stitch. You can call it the Ndebele stitch, or you can call it just the herringbone stitch. Either way that you choose, this is going to be the stitch that we're covering. You'll start by threading an even number of seed beads. In this case I have black seed beads, item number EB698, and these are in a 6/0 size. And to use an alternating color in this pattern, I'm also going to be using a 6/0 size cream colored seed bead, and this is item number EB6113. The type of cording that I'm using is a red colored size D Nemo thread, item number BC905. The reason that I'm using this color cord is so that you can see it better in this video. If I was doing this stitch on my own, I would probably use either a black or a very, very dark colored thread as opposed to the red, so that it would blend in with my seed beads and not stand out. Your first step in your herringbone stitch is to create a ladder stitch of even number seed beads. This will create your base stitch that you build your herringbone stitch off of. If you need any further help creating this base stitch, please reference our How to Make a Ladder Stitch on our videos page. When you're doing your ladder stitch, sometimes when you go through just once, you'll see that your beads don't want to line up right next to each other. This is very apparent when you're using round seed beads like this. Not so much when you're using cylindrical or delicate seed beads, but like I said, rounder seed beads don't tend to want to lay right next to each other. In order to correct this, go through your stitches twice, and then pick up another seed bead and go through that twice. So, in this ladder stitch, you're modifying it a bit. You're adding an extra stitch to each one of your beads, and this will allow the seed beads to lay next to each other a tiny bit better. This will also give you a nice sturdy base stitch to build the rest of your herringbone stitch off of. After you have your base stitch complete, it's time for the next row. Take your needle and pick up 2 seed beads, and you can choose to do this in the same color or the alternate color, like I'm using. You came out of this last seed bead coming out of the top. Skip this seed bead and go down through the second to the last seed bead, like so. When you pull tight, what happens is these 2 beads will want to lay in a V shape, and this is the shape that you'll see throughout your stitch. Now your needle is coming out of the bottom of the second to last seed bead. Take your needle up through the next seed bead in line, and then pick up 2 more seed beads and go down through the next seed bead. Continue this pattern all the way across your base row stitch, all the way across your base stitch, and then I'll show you how to do the turn so that you can do row number 3. When you come to the end of your base stitch, you'll be coming out through the bottom of your stop bead, if you chose to do one. In order to make the turn, what you'll do is now double back onto your stitch, and you're going to go through the second to the last on your base stitch on this side. So come up through that second bead, and now you're going to go back through the bottom of the last bead in that second row. To make it easier, you can either work from right to left, left to right, or you can simply flip your work over. Like many bead weavings, you can actually flip your work so that you work in the desired direction that you want each and every time. There's no need for you to zigzag back and forth. This is one of those stitches where it works out very well. So now we're coming out through this bead over here on the right side, and just like before, now you're going to go down through the second bead in that group. 2 things will happen here. First thing that you'll notice is that, again, you get that V pattern with your beads. The second thing that you're going to notice is that the most recent set of beads that you attach to your stitch are not necessarily attached to the other rows that you're working with. Don't let this surprise you and don't let it shock you, but you'll have to go through them again on your next stitch in order to secure them. Now by that, I mean these 2 stitches are wanting to spread apart from one another. I'm going to secure my second row, so the white seed beads together, by coming up through that next seed bead. This will pull those 2 rows together. However, the 2 black seed beads up here at the top will not be attached to the next set of black seed beads that I thread on until I do my following row. So after you've completed a couple of rows, you'll see that the color thread that you decide to use in your stitch does matter a lot, especially in this one, because between every single one of these rows, you can see that thread peeking out. Now, one quick trick that I wanted to show you is that when you're stitching your seed beads, especially after doing a couple of rows, you can actually take your needle and you're going to go down through your next bead and then cut across over to the very next group. This is just a little time-saving technique that you learn after doing a couple of these rows. Continue doing as many rows as you need to complete your herringbone stitch, and then to finish your stitch up here at the top, you'll simply go through each one of your beads one time without adding additional beads. And let me show you how that works here in this next segment. What you do to tie all of these loose ends together, because remember the last row that you threaded on isn't really attached to anything. Take your cording and you're going to do a ladder stitch with this very last row. So go down through the next bead. Remember, you're not attaching any more seed beads. Come up through the first bead again, and I'm doing my ladder stitch just like I did with the ladder stitch beneath. I want mine to be very secure, so as opposed to going through it once, I want to go through it twice. Now I've come back down through that second seed bead again. Come up through the third seed bead, and then swing around and come back through the second seed bead. Lo and behold, what winds up happening is your seed beads will actually lay down next to each other just like a ladder stitch. This is all that you need to learn in order to do the Ndebele Herringbone Stitch.